Okay, 3, 2, 1, we're on the air. And those of you who are in some of my other classes, you're probably tired of seeing that, so I got to come up with new material. But in any case, here we are. We're facing the coronavirus, which, well, whatever you want to call it. Now we are in a new chapter of online education, meaning that a lot of people who've never done this before are now learning how to do it. And I think it's actually, this aspect of it at least, is actually going to do some good. And like everything else, digital photography class will have to be converted to an online format, which this would be the wrong time of the semester to do it normally because part of what I originally wanted to do with the class was to demonstrate printed photographs, which are the only thing that can't really be done online. But that's just the way it worked out. And so we're going to move to an online format, and this is what we're about. So, get this going. So let me go through what you have to know for this week. Now, for those of you who might be concerned, this week is really designed to get everybody started. And so the expectations are going to be moderate. I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel. At the end of this week, if we are in a position where we can face the rest of the semester, I would say that we've accomplished something, especially since many of you are traveling. And so what I want to talk about now is how we're going to approach the class. That will be really the nature of this discussion. Now, first of all, I'm going to make some declarations. And when I say declarations, what I mean by that is how I'm going to approach online teaching in general and this class specifically. Now, the first thing to understand is that we're going to impose a structure. We're going to do weekly content, meaning that every week certain things will be expected of you and expected of me. I will deliver content relevant on a weekly basis. You will respond to it at the appropriate time. So you can't do it all at the end of the semester. It doesn't work that way. Only because we have to keep the structure going, at least to some degree. As I said, weekly expectations. You'll be expected to respond to assignments. You'll be told how to respond, so you don't necessarily have to worry that I don't know you're there, that sort of thing. Every assignment you turn in will be graded, which they always were, but in this case, it'll be a little bit more important that we keep that going on a regular basis. Now, the major assignments will still exist, but will be modified to kind of make room for the fact that we're doing this stuff online. You're still going to have photographic sets. We will still have critiques, and that will actually be done in slightly different fashion than before, but I think it'll be a good, and maybe even an improvement. We'll see. Progress on major assignments will be monitored. Now, in this particular case, your assignments are beginning to look about the same, meaning that you're producing photographic sets. Really, that's what's going on. You're building a final portfolio. And so pretty much this will almost do itself. It's kind of the way it was working in the regular class anyway. All grades will be posted on Blackboard. So get used to accessing the Blackboard site. It'll make it a little bit easier. We'll be able to communicate very well that way. I don't see that as a problem. Class times are open. These classes are what we call asynchronous for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, meaning that for this class, for example, it doesn't really matter when you access the material. Whenever the material is posted, you will be made aware of it, and so you can access it at your leisure. And so if you want to sleep late or get up early, hopefully we'll be able to accommodate you. Materials available anytime. Once things are posted, they don't disappear after a certain point, except for tests and things like that. Some classes may meet virtually at specific times for discussion. Now, that's kind of important. The actual critiques which we had, we're still going to do that. Now, those you will have to show up for at a particular. Discussion boards will be available. And those are primarily for asking questions, meaning that if you have a question that you would like to ask or if you have a concern, bring it up on a discussion board. And I will check those regularly. And also, if you are on a discussion board and you feel you're in a position to answer a question, you can do that as well. That way we'll have the benefit of that. And so please do that. This is important. You will not, I repeat, not be asked to post things just to prove you still exist. That's one of those things that I disagree with some of my colleagues on concerning online classes. I don't feel that students should necessarily post gibberish or try to come up with meaningful comments about things because inevitably it all becomes very annoying. So basically they're posting stuff which really they wouldn't have said in the class, and so everybody's got to pretend that they're interested in something they're not. Let's say, for example, so I don't go there. Basically, you will be graded on what you produce. And in the case of the photographic critiques, it'll be easy because we'll all be there talking about the work, and hopefully it will be just the same as it would be if you were in the class. Quizzes and assignments will prove attendance, as I just said. Now, you are required to obtain and use software resources and technology. So you are expected to be able to access Blackboard, which I assume you are. You will also be expected to get the Adobe Suite, which you can access for free. There was an announcement to that effect. So you should be able to do that. And so if anything comes up, just let me know. Now the cameras, this is going to be a sore spot for me. I'm asking you to look for camera options. Now obviously, I would prefer that all of you have access to a DSLR of some kind, Canon, Nikon, whatever you're used to, or something like that. Ideally, anything with a lens. But if you have to resort to the cell phone, if you really have to, I can't say otherwise. I mean, if you're in the Fayetteville area, I have no problem with you setting out a camera. But if it doesn't work out that way, just use the best resource you have available. Understanding, though, that the DSLR camera is really not intended for what we're doing. I'm sorry, the cell phone camera is not intended to replace the DSLR. It has severe limitations, so be aware of that. Okay, so going back to this. As I say, DSLRs are preferable. Anything with a lens is better than the cell phone camera. Make them a last resort. All images must be presented in a digital form, unfortunately, because that's really all we can work with. And so what I'm going to want is for the digital images, you must send me your sets through Blackboard or through email before we have the discussions, because I have to put them up. Now, the final presentations will also be presented in a digital fashion of some kind, and chances are it will be a similar critique to what we normally do. Unfortunately, we just won't be able to print them out and put them up in a nice venue which we can walk through. Okay, the image critiques in a virtual classroom. Now, Blackboard has this virtual classroom capability, and you can explore it, and we'll talk about it later. But essentially what that means is when you go to the virtual classroom, you sort of log in, and your camera, your web camera, assuming you have one, gets accessed, and you basically can talk, raise your hand, say hello, and everybody can see each other. And so what we'll be doing is I'll be posting the images that you produce, and we'll be talking about them. And so that will be the way it can go. And of course, whoever we're talking about can introduce the images. That's really the idea. And so hopefully this will turn out to be every bit as meaningful as what we were doing in class. Okay, so we will meet to critique. That's important, meaning that those, at least for the time being, let's assume that will take place during the regular class time on a Tuesday or a Thursday. And so we'll keep that time open. If that time does not work, we can set up a different time. But you will know long in advance when you have to report. And as I said, all images must be sent to me prior. Students are required to be in the virtual classroom. Now the casualties of the Wuhan coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, matting and framing. I am sorry, folks, but we will sort of be discussing matting and framing. You'll understand how it works and what it is, but unless you're ambitious and really want to do it, you're not going to be required to mat and frame your work for the purposes of this class. Drone photography. We originally had a unit on drone photography. We'll still be talking about drones, but it's not 100% critical. First of all, there were no drone assignments specifically in the original class anyway, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated to do that were we to intend to. And these topics will be discussed as topics. Regular assignments and quizzes, etc., are going to be online. And pretty much everything that you need to know will be discussed. And I want to personally thank all of you. Now, again, if you've already experienced this part of the class, you don't necessarily have to hang on for this. Know, first of all, that there is a class assignment. It is in the assignments folder for this week. Basically, you're supposed to respond and tell me basically how you're going to approach the class, what you're going to do. And if you do this, if you send me something coherent, you will get an A. If you don't send me anything at all, you don't get a grade. That's basically how it's going to work for the remainder of the semester. Thank you, Leonard Beckett. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Sarjan. Thank you, Garen. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Thomas Hemingway. I'm calling you both names because I think you also go by George, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Broderick. And thank you, Khalil. And so all of you are important to me. I want to make sure that we understand that this is still a class. I'm still viewing you as individuals. I'm not throwing material at you with the assumption that you're all going to respond to it the same way. That's why we have these discussion boards. I'm going to try to make this as personalized an experience as I can for everybody. This will be how we're going to approach the class from here on in. Please let me know if you have any issues, and I look forward to working with you for the remainder of the semester. Have a good one.